Keeping animals at home is a huge responsibility, be it a goldfish, hamster, rabbit, or a cat, and maybe even a dog. Each pet brings with it a set of guidelines and things one must follow to ensure that the pet has a healthy and happy life. However, not all animals are perhaps meant to be kept as pets, and keeping them often leads to darker consequences. There is a distinction between animals which can be kept as pets and those that are wild, and people who break this code are plagued by very unfortunate accidents. Sometimes they just end up paying a price much higher than the one they paid to acquire the pet. A disturbing example: recently, the grisly remains of an Oregon hog farmer was found in a pig pen where the man was last seen attending to his typically non-violent animals. Here's the list of top 10 pets that ate their owners. Get yourself ready for number 1 as it may make your stomach turn. Viewer discretion is advised. Number 10. Bengal Tiger. It's pretty clear by this point that most of these animals belong in the wild instead of being locked up in a cage. 52-year-old Cynthia Lee Gamble was mauled and killed by a 500-pound Bengal tiger, which was in her possession in her residence. The crazy part about this whole deal was that Gamble was heavily involved in editing and writing wildlife documentaries, even going as far as to writing her own books related to this. She was also listed as an animal coordinator for the movie Vertical Limit, which was released in the year 2000 and had used snow leopards. Her body was discovered by a man who arrived on her property to perform a controlled burn. A veterinarian was called in to euthanize the tiger before authorities could gain access to Gamble's remains. The animal was later moved to the University of Minnesota Veterinary Hospital for testing. Number 9. Monitor Lizard. For reasons that are beyond our understanding, Ronald Huff, a resident of Newark, Delaware, was the owner of 7 Nile monitor lizards in 2002. When he didn't show up for work, police officers decided to check up on him and entered his apartment. What they ended up seeing instead was a horrific scene. The monitor lizards were feeding on their owner's corpse. That's the stuff of nightmares. An autopsy report was unable to determine the cause of death, so it was unsure whether the monitors had any role in the death of Huff or if he died under natural circumstances. This event led to stricter rules relating to the international trade of exotic pets. Number 8. Pugs. 2 pug dogs named Harry and Sally in Nebraska were forced to resort to eating the face of their own human after being starved without food for weeks. Their 51-year-old owner shot himself in the face and thus was unable to feed the dogs, so they were left to starve. The 2 pugs survived by feasting on the face, brain, and torso of the deceased man. Neither pug displayed blood or tissue that showed they ate their owner, but no explanation or evidence led to anyone else eating the entire top portion of the person. Both pups were taken to the local humane society, where they awaited adoption or to be claimed by the family of the deceased. Despite their somewhat traumatizing month, both dogs seemed to be well adjusted and were able to be adopted. Number 7. Pig. In what was probably one of the most shocking incidents to ever happen, Harry Vance Garner, an Oregon pig farmer, became a victim of his own pigs. He routinely set out one night to feed the animals but never returned. His family members grew worried and set out to look for him, fearing that he had gone missing. After searching for several hours, they eventually came across his glasses and pieces of his body inside the pig enclosure. It is speculated that Garner most probably had a heart attack or was knocked over by one of the pigs and then consumed. Authorities initially considered foul play, given the fact that domestic pigs are rarely known to get violent. However, Garner had previously reported being bitten by the animals before. Another fact to consider here is that most of these pigs weighed well over 700 pounds, almost double the size of normal pigs, which explains why they might have some violent tendencies. Number 6. Cats. It doesn't matter if you're a dog or a cat person. The fact remains that cats can make for some of the most adorable pets. However, they still carry their predatory traits over from their much larger siblings, the African lion or the Bengal tiger. Back in 2010, Herbert Walden, who was 74 years old, passed away after suffering a heart attack while taking care of his dying mother Jane, who was 94. She died too soon after because of dehydration, since she was dependent on Herbert's care. When authorities arrived, they discovered piles of garbage and filth with dozens of cats roaming around. Since there was no one around to provide them food, they decided to feed on their deceased owners instead. It is still unknown whether all the cats were pets or if they were attracted due to the large amounts of garbage. Regardless, they were all taken to the local animal shelter. Number 5. African Lion. Illinois resident Al Abel and his wife Kathy oversaw a small zoo situated on a farm which they called Cougar Bluff Enterprise. One of the biggest animals that they had was a 500-pound African lion named Simba. Big cats usually require a lot of careful handling, especially when they are being fed or their cages need to be cleaned. Abel was normally very aware of this, but a simple mistake in 2004 cost him his life. The 52-year-old man was attacked by Simba while he was attempting to clean the cage, having forgotten to put the large cat in its secondary enclosure. While the exact details of how the lion attacked him are unknown, Abel's wife reportedly returned to the property a short while after the attack and found her husband to be missing. The police were called, who, after being unable to retrieve Abel's body, had to shoot the animal. Abel had bled to death after suffering a massive bite in his leg from the lion. Number 4. Hamsters. This is another strange incident where a woman was found dead inside her apartment and was scavenged upon by her pet hamster. The victim was found dead in her home, with unusual marks and wounds on her face. When investigators looked in an inconspicuous open drawer, they found a ghastly sight: the hamster's burrow. Its new home was made out of human skin, fat, and muscle tissue. Number 3. Camel. Camels may look docile, but they're pretty gnarly creatures, especially the young ones who are known to exhibit hostile behavior. Pam Weaver, an Australian exotic pet owner with a property full of cattle and sheep, was the unfortunate victim of an attack by one of these creatures. Weaver's husband had gifted her a 330-pound camel for her 60th birthday. Apparently, the camel was very excited and showed signs of sexual behavior by trying to mount the family's pet goat. Weaver didn't pay much attention to this until one evening the camel decided to mate with her instead. She was initially able to fight the camel off, but it responded more aggressively by biting her, knocking her over, laying on top of her, and eventually trampling her to death. Number 2. A hippo. Fun fact about hippos is that they are probably one of the most dangerous animals on the planet. They are responsible for causing more human deaths in Africa than crocodiles, and that's not all. They're even known to kill crocodiles and will attack anything without any provocation whatsoever. Unfortunately, former South African Army Major Marius Els did not believe in all of this and had to pay the price. He had adopted Humphrey, a 1.2-ton hippo, when it was only 5 months old, and made attempts to domesticate it. This did not end well, as the hippo ended up killing Els after severely biting him, tearing and swallowing his flesh while he was struggling and alive. Not only that, Humphrey had broken out of his pen many times before and was responsible for killing calves on the property. African authorities have warned people since then from keeping hippos as pets, as it is impossible to train them. Number 1. Burmese Python. Keeping a Burmese python is a bad idea if you don't know how to take care of it. But it's even worse when you have a toddler in the same house. Negligence at the hands of Charles Darnell and Jaron Hare led to the death of their 2-year-old daughter Cheyenne. Apparently, the 8-foot 6-inch snake had already escaped close to a dozen times in a few weeks, since the only thing covering its cage was a quilt. This time, however, the parents discovered that the snake had tightly wrapped itself around their daughter and had its fangs embedded in her forehead in an effort to eat her. Animal experts later found that the snake hadn't been fed in almost a month and was underweight when it attacked the girl. Both Hare and Darnell were arrested and convicted of third-degree murder, after which they were sentenced to 12 years in prison. Do you have a favorite animal? How many pets do you have at home? Which story made you feel more terrified? Let us know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos.